The answer is, if there are oversight hearings, I absolutely will cooperate fully and testify before the Congress if asked. You may not know, but I've testified before the Congress a few hundred times, okay, over the last 40 years or so. So I have no trouble testifying. We can defend and explain and stand by everything that we said, so I have nothing to do. Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
What happened? So, that's Dr. Anthony Fauci, someone who you probably know pretty well, being that he has shaped our life over here in the States over the course of the last few years, definitely during the course of the pandemic, being that he played a huge role in how we infiltrated the course of the COVID vaccine and the shots and the pandemic and the sickness, the illness, and how it was spreading around. He, was one of the pro advocates of the 6-foot distance rule, wearing the masks, getting the shots, and to the full extent where I actually also I almost lost my job if I didn't get the COVID vaccine. And they actually had a huge survey that was sent out through all the staff, and the majority of the staff said they were not going to take the shots. So with the overall CEOs deciding that they can't fire everybody, that would ruin the business model, they decided not to enforce a shot. Although it is technically, I would think, against some sort of our, Constitution, being that how are you going to force me to take a vaccine? I understand there are certain things you have to take if you want to be in school. As when I was in kid, I did have to take certain vaccines, but usually those are tested over the course of many years, possibly decades, and they have usually trial runs. Well, this COVID vaccine was kind of rushed, and this whole topic was definitely had a whole bunch of misinformation spread about it, and whether it was true or not, whether it did help, whether it did cause more deaths or not, this is something that was not really being published, was not really being publicly shared much amongst the media, and if you did talk down about it, you would be this conspiracy theorist freak. I never got the vaccine. I almost got 2 of them. I almost got the first one, being that Target almost forced me. They threatened my job, and I told them I would find that they forced me, they would have to find a replacement. I'm not going to force that. Being that I talked to my mother about it, my mother was very against it with her religious beliefs, so I never did it. Look at what happened today. You couldn't even go into certain bars or certain areas. You couldn't even fly into certain countries if you didn't have the vaccine, or in certain states. Walk into certain buildings without showing your vaccine card that you're vaccinated. Now, what happened to that? Doesn't matter at all. Something we were forced to do, and we were threatened that if you didn't do this, you're going to kill my grandma or my newborn baby or my sick sister, whatever. No, you're now just fine. It's like it never existed. All that fear is just now doesn't exist. Now, regardless of what you think about the Republicans or the Democrats or politics, this is something that affected everybody, because it was a stigma across the land if you don't have a vaccine or not. Now, let's continue.
See, like taking the fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
As he looks up at it.
I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been part.
And they wondered why, other countries laugh at American politics. This is how we run our nation. This is who infiltrates the entirety of what we follow.
Pardoned, as you very well know, as the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more. Brown versus Walker, 1896. When he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege.
Yeah, so now what he's talking about here, Republicans actually argue that his presidential pardon by Biden wasn't really the best thing. And in this congressional hearing, he pleads the fifth 111 times, half the amount, to questions that seemingly you can tell he's not going to be honest with absolutely anything, which you see the first video we watched, I've been in Congress over 100 times, I'll do it. And then you actually show up, and this is what we get.
Know that your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs, they know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic, you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million.
And I actually looked up the numbers. He raised his net worth by over 40%, and he was actually at a government salary of over 1.3 million. So he was making a lot of money off of what? People's deaths. And now, can you say he was trying to help? Potentially he was, but was this really for the best cause, or was this to, oomph up his pockets in profits?
The end, and you were getting rich, and not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the
One of the
funny, but
wildest
it's not
things
funny.
now is during this Fauci trial, you're not seeing any coverage of it on mainstream media, except I saw one of those stupid panel shows on CNN where they were saying no one cares about this. We should care about what's happening right now. America doesn't care about what happened 5 years ago. Hey, there's a congressional hearing going on where a guy's testifying in front of Congress who got a complete 10-year immunity for all the crimes that he possibly could have committed.
Think about
when he
that.
wasn't convicted of any crimes, which is an incredible precedent that's never happened before.
It's almost like they knew this was going to come up to bite them in the ass. It's almost like they knew, like, oh, what we're doing here, we're going to have to pay the price for this. So we're going to give you a little pass and a pardon right now. Let's give you a 10-year immunity. Look, we're about 5 years deep, and look what's happening. The cards are starting to reverse.
Never had a guy get pardoned for something that he was never convicted of for 10 years, anything he did in 10 years. And then you have that same guy testifying in front of Congress, pleading the fifth that what color his tie is. If you don't think that's news, you're out of your fucking mind, and you shouldn't be calling yourself the news because you're just a propaganda arm for whatever pharmaceutical company is paying for your advertising.
Now, you could possibly say that, oh, Joe Rogan, you're also a propaganda farm. But obviously, I don't know. Number one podcast in the world, I don't really have any opinion. He definitely did have a huge role in Trump's presidency, but also, I've been watching the comedy comedians far before they were all political. So, but he does get paid, what, $100 million by Spotify, and then his YouTube, whatever. He has these crazy sponsorships and his own stuff he sells. So he's definitely making buku bucks. Definitely probably has a sway in the media and definitely within politics. But he has a fair point here. This guy, Dr. Anthony Fauci, maybe the devil himself, he has been a huge role in the way we've shaped our society. And this is the way he's reacting now when he has to face the consequences of everything that he's put his face up on.
What you're doing is nonsense. This is definitely not news. That's a big issue for most Americans who went through that. People who lost their jobs. People who had to take a vaccine in order to go to work and got sick from it. People who, they couldn't fly. They couldn't travel. They were vilified. They were called plague rats because they were questioning these things. And here we are. Here we are with CNN saying this is not a big deal. Why are we concentrating on this? We have so many issues right now plaguing this country. Yeah, guess what? We can concentrate on those too. We can look at everything. That's what you're supposed to.
All right, so what do you guys personally think about this? Have you guys been affected? Were you guys affected? Obviously, we all were affected in some form, shape, or way, but was the COVID vaccine shot something that you got yourself? Is something that didn't really seem like a big deal? It's just something like, hey, Josh, you should have got it. Not a big deal. But at the same time, think about how this was enforced. I was threatened to lose my job, my main one source income, which now I've realized you have to diversify your source income a little bit. Even if it's not much, it'll all add up over time and multiple different factors and sectors. But with this being said, all those categories, and you can actually think about this in a deeper way, being that, do you remember the conversations? You remember how the family sit-down gatherings were around this time? How they weren't even existing. You couldn't do it. I'll never forget going to meet one of my ex-girlfriend, at the time, girlfriend's parents, and I walked into the restaurant. You had to wear the mask to walk into the restaurant. Once you sat down at your table, you took the mask off. Once the waitress comes by, you put the mask on. But while you're eating, you don't got to put the mask on. But the waitress have the mask on. But then when the waitress is talking, a lot of the time they'll take the mask down because you can't really hear them through the mask. It was a bullshit. That's all it was. And the 6 feet distance thing, although it probably helped, come on, we all know. Are you old enough to know how air spreads? I don't know if that makes sense. But either way, what do you guys personally think about this? I never got the shot. and I'm not fully against vaccines, but this one seemed iffy, and I wasn't a part of it. And the way that they enforced it so heavily, and now it's never even a topic of conversation. It's like it never happened. And did you face any side effects? Did anyone in your family face side effects? Do you think this was actually a good thing? Are you on Dr. Fauci's side? Do you think that he deserves the pardon? Or do you also think this is probably a silly way for him to act when he's in this court hearing? I'd love to hear the person's thoughts, opinions on that, and feel free to leave your other thoughts, opinions on what you want me to discuss here on the channel down below. You shout out to everybody who checks those links. Always the best way to show your support towards me and the channel. And I more than appreciate you guys just watching. Content always remain free. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next one. God bless.